I'm gonna sharpen my blade on your spine!
Hello, everyone. Daniel Bloodworth here. I'm joined by Ben Moore.
Hey.
You played Borderlands 3 at E3.
At E3 I did, yep.
I played it at a gameplay reveal event. And then recently, 2K brought a bunch of people up to their offices in Northern California to play a few hours. And me and Lawrence from Inside Gaming, we both, our flight was delayed multiple times.
Always sucks.
Yeah, so we got a couple hours in, but like our demo kind of got cut short. We had to end one part and then start another part, and I only got 10 minutes in. But yeah, I got to play a bit of Flak, the Beastmaster, as well as Mose, and with the big mech.
Cool.
So the plan was, I think about 3 to 4 hours for the big, from the start of the game, straight up the beginning of the game.
Which is always nice.
Yeah.
Because especially in a game where you're leveling up and getting new abilities, it's always hard jumping into the middle of it and trying to figure it out backwards. Okay, what did I get to? Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the things too. So the second part was jumping in.
Yeah.
To a level 23 characters, and I guess I'll plop skill points over here, and I don't know, because you don't know what's working for you at that point.
Right.
I think that's the thing. So you just end up spreading yourself out all over the place just to try to see if you can unlock something that looks cool.
Yeah, especially in something like Borderlands, where it does have traditional things that you would expect, but they kind of pride themselves on the outlandish things that you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. So in a way, I know it's weird, because I know they want us to get freedom, but in a way, I would kind of prefer if they just said, we built a character for you, or here's 3 builds that we think, match what play styles we expect people to have.
You could try them out, get comfortable
rather than
with
just
them.
a bucket full of skill points.
Right.
So there's that. But the first part, to kind of get back to the beginning of the day, the first part that we did, they said we were basically quote unquote stuck playing with Flak, who is the Beastmaster.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you do see with these skill trees and the way and the points and how everything's allocated is that there's a lot more freedom than before. So in past Borderlands games, every character had an action skill.
Yes.
And then you could augment it. You get a certain way down one of the trees, and it can kind of transform a little bit or whatever. But essentially, that's the skill that you have for your playthrough.
Right.
With the way things are now, it feels like, number one, the way every character can be built up varies a little bit.
Yeah.
So, with the Beastmaster, you're focused on your 3 pets, and so your different action skills are essentially which pet are you going to have as your companion.
Okay, so what are the options?
So there is a guard skag, who is essentially like a dog.
Okay.
He'll urinate every once in a while when you're talking to people.
A nice touch.
And it can you can direct it. That's one thing you can do with all of them is you basically hold the action button, the action skill button.
Yeah.
And so if you tap it, you do your action skill. If you hold it, then your pet will basically target a specific enemy.
Cool.
And with the skag, what he does is he barfs acid on them.
Important question. When your skag is urinating on NPCs, do they have unique dialogue for that interaction?
Unfortunately, they don't seem to notice.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say he's urinating on them. You might be able to get the model close enough to make it look like that. But and then the other 2 pets that you have as Flak, there's a spider ant that can charge enemies.
Can you ride it?
No, it's not that big.
Okay.
And then there is a jabber, which I couldn't really remember. I think it must have been in one of the DLCs, which I did play, but but it's essentially a monkey. But it's a monkey with a pistol.
That seems like the one. That seems like the one. Out of the 3 options you presented.
And when you target somebody, it will throw a radioactive barrel on an enemy. One thing I noticed too that the jabber will do is you know how Borderlands just kind of suspiciously has barrels of all kinds of different elements scattered about battlefields and combat arenas. The Jabber will go over to those barrels just on its own and grab them and chuck them at
That's
people.
cool. That's cool.
So,
I think a danger with classes that revolve around pets is you need to strike this balance where your pet feels powerful and useful, but doesn't make it so you're like not playing the game. Like you still need to feel like a valuable asset in what's going on, and so you want to have interaction between the two, like your own character and the pet. So how did you feel like that balance was in your limited time?
Yeah, I think it worked out okay. It's nice to have some form of companion because, you know, once in a while when you get knocked out, like you want that second wind, and sometimes.
Oh, so do they come and second wind you?
Or
I mean, they'll come and revive you from.
They won't revive you like an NPC will revive you now.
I see.
But you know, like if you get like that shot, that kill.
Right. So they can get that shot, and then you will come back. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. But your pet can also go down. They can take enough damage to go down, and you have to go over and revive them like you would another player or an NPC.
So if you don't go and revive them, will they come back after a set amount of time?
Yeah, I think there's probably some kind of respawn timer going on there. And then later, the one I went with in the second part when we could choose was Mose, who I hadn't played with before. She has the mech. And the way you kind of outfit the mech is that there are basically like your left trigger and right trigger weapons that you choose. So there's like a railgun, there's a rocket launcher, and there's a minigun. And then beneath them, things that you unlock on the skill tree can kind of augment those weapons.
Yeah.
So if you have the rocket launcher, you can unlock a skill that will make those rockets turn into homing rockets. And so you can just target an enemy specifically for all your rockets to shoot at them rather than just blowing them off into the air, off into the distance. But yeah, so you start off almost kind of midstream. Like it doesn't really try to explain how you got there or, you know, necessarily like what your character's doing there. Maybe there's like one extra cutscene at the beginning that they didn't show us. But you're just sort of with Claptrap and you're like, all right, we're going to go in and do some tutorials, you know, learn how to slide, learn how to mount on objects.
I assume that I can envision Claptrap doing that in a way that is like kind of commentary on what a tutorial is.
Right.
Like that kind of jokiness.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, there's one point in there where he's like, all right, it's stealth time. And like the whole time he's like dancing and being really loud.
Right.
And then he's like, okay, here's your weapons. And he like sets off like a thing of TNT. And it's like, this is stealth? Like, what's going on? Like your character like literally says what you're thinking.
That was stealth? How have you survived this long?
Relax! On Pandora, it's actually super weird if something's not exploding.
On top of your pets and like on top of the other things in the skill tree, like there's another element to your action skill that you can also equip.
So what do you mean?
So I've got the Skag equipped, but on top of that, there's an ability that allows me to, when I hit the regular action skill button, then I can teleport that Skag like wherever. Like wherever I'm aiming, like teleport it there.
Yeah.
But another one that I use later on is instead of the teleport, I can actually summon the Racks, the like bat-like creatures, to just like dive bomb a couple enemies.
That seems really cool because like if an enemy is in like the way that I envision that working is like if an enemy is in a hard to reach area, maybe you could use a pet to kind of get them out of that cover and make them more exposed. You can fire at them pretty easily. That's cool.
Yeah, and so like teleporting a pet into a camp really kind of gave me like one of those kind of Far Cry kind of moments, you know, where it's like, you know, all of a sudden
you're watching the chaos unfold.
Yeah, you're watching everyone like freak out. One thing that's nice that they've done to kind of avoid the AI getting like stuck and you having to like wiggle them out of some areas. Just every so often they will just literally just teleport right next to you.
Gotcha.
So if you're in combat or you run away or whatever, they're just gonna, destruct or whatever right next to where you're standing.
Cool.
So you go in, you do some funny little introductory things. Lilith shows up. The kind of base that you're dealing with becomes sort of the makeshift interim home base. So Lilith will be there. You'll get some quests from her, and then go out further. One of the first things that you end up doing is you end up going to Ellie, and again, they introduce like the whole vehicle thing, and you've got to. What's interesting is like they actually have a bonus objective for like actually hijacking a vehicle.
Oh.
Which I'm not sure if I did correctly. So my strategy was, because there's a bunch of guys basically racing around a racetrack and shooting at you. And so what I did is I got one of the incendiary weapons, and I shot the driver so that he jumped out of the car, in flames, trying to put himself out.
And then you just got
and then
in
I
the
stole
car.
the car
Nice.
and took it back to Ellie.
So by doing that bonus objective, are you getting additional loot? Are you getting
Yeah,
more
there's
money?
Okay. I think it's just like extra XP or whatever.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. And one of the things I think we've talked about before is like a lot of the guns now have alt fires. So that's one of the things is trying to when you're looking through new weapons and okay, this one's got a nice scope, but it's just kind of a basic pistol. But this one, like this machine gun, it switches between kind of a typical full auto versus burst fire.
Yeah.
Some of the pistols will have they basically call it a taser function. So you can go between normal bullets and a single electrical shot.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because obviously you'll get electrical guns entirely later on, but it's sort of okay, get that damage going, get that effect going, and then swap over to the regular bullets, and then take them out while they're being affected by it.
I guess a question with the loot and thinking about Borderlands, Borderlands, you're just picking up so much stuff all the time. Something that I like about Borderlands is even though you're getting a lot of stuff, it felt pretty quick to make decisions. Okay, I want this, I don't want that. I know that this is better. It was all very easily identifiable.
Yeah, you
feel
can definitely
that's still
catch those
true?
colors and the levels and things like that. There's a lot of, you look at those green numbers basically. It's okay, this has got more damage but less reload time, or.
So you didn't feel like you had to agonize over these decisions too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's just a lot of stuff that you just leave in the dust. And one thing that's kind of nice is that they have later on, when you get the spaceship, they have a system to where if you've left behind any good loot, it'll automatically show up in this dispensary. So
nice.
It's you left this behind. But I think it's one of those things. You know how you can expand your backpack and storage units and all that? It's another one of those things that you can expand. So at first okay, the loot thing will only save one or two weapons that you didn't pick up, or that fell through the ground or whatever. But later on, you can expand that to get more of those. At some point, you rescue this guy, Vaughn, who was a bandit leader who's dirty and smelly and in his underwear.
A Borderlands character.
Yeah. Basically. And so his whole bandit team has been either recruited or wiped out by the Children of the Vault.
Yeah.
Who is this cult that are following the two main antagonists, who are the Calypso twins. And we definitely got to see more of them. It's funny because they said, there's nothing you have to worry about here in terms of spoilers unless you go reading through logs in the second part of the preview.
Yeah.
But then there's a whole scene here that I don't think people want to know about in advance. Yeah. I'm okay. But needless to say, they show why they, why they're a match for your group. and why they're a threat to your group.
Okay.
And actually, I was afraid of them because they initially described them as being like annoying Twitch casters or whatever.
Yeah, and you definitely get that, at least with the girl. I don't remember her name,
Yeah.
but in the demo that I played at E3, there's definitely some talk of that, or how the characters.
Yeah, it's how they present themselves.
Yeah.
Like, they'll talk to you for a little bit, and then they'll turn on a camera, and it's like, hey, look how crappy they are, and
Right.
and
Gods don't negotiate! I love it! Love it! Like I said, that map is super busted, so go ahead and take it!
like it didn't feel like so leaning into that like I actually am annoyed and just want them out of my face.
Gotcha.
It's just a kind of a good. I think it's just kind of a good setup to like why they have so many cult followers or whatever.
How do the Calypso twins compare to something like Handsome Jack, where, I feel like we've spent so much time with Handsome Jack, not only in Borderlands 2, but also like Borderlands, the pre-sequel, there was a focus on him there. And I think it's just hard when you're going against a very established antagonistic force like that. Do you think these characters are interesting enough that they can serve as effective threats?
Yeah, I think they do show themselves to be an effective threat pretty early on, and one of the things that's going on with this is there is a map to all of the vaults and stuff, and at first I think like they don't know how to use it right, and so they kind of screw it up, and then you take it back from. I think you get it back from Mouthpiece, the guy that you fought in the demo. So this guy, he's got like a base that's full of like giant speakers that are blowing at you and everything like that. And so once you beat that boss, you get the map and take it back to Lilith, and they figure out how it, where the first vault is. But then soon after it, the Calypso twins managed to come and take it back. And like, all right, well, we've got to catch up to them. We've got to get to the vault before they do. We've got to get the map back before they get to any other vaults. And so I think that's kind of where the potential of this, gets to be a little bit interesting is just kind of this, we're looking towards like planet hopping a lot more.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool. And kind of talking to that, one of the things I thought I poked in, well, I did not poke, I needed to use it, but looking at the map of like the overworld is a really nice map because I think in past Borderlands games you had this problem of just like looking at this 2D space and not really understanding where some things were. And so like you would be somewhere and then be like, all right, well, I'm at the waypoint, but I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to be looking for. I guess it says it's above me. Like, what's going on above me or below me, especially if something was below you, and then you're like, well, I'm looking at the ground. Like, what's happening? The map now is like very, very 3D without being too 3D.
Yeah, that's the thing is once you add more depth to a map like that, it can get to a point where it's just hard to kind of discern it at a glance,
right?
And so you need to be able to tackle.
So
both
it's
of
like
those
you
things.
can kind of see like it's almost like they took a 2D map, but then they like they just got those elevation changes and stuff so that you can see like how things
That's
interact
awesome.
with each other.
That'll
but you're
make a
not looking
huge
at like a
difference.
bunch of cubes like Metroid Prime.
Gotcha. Cool.
So yeah, I really was digging how that was. Like there were some quests where it was like driving over here and drive over there, and it was pretty easy to follow it if I looked at my map.
Because especially when you're playing with friends, that's when the fun comes to a halt, right? Where it's like, wait, where do we go? Like you just hate having that moment when you're just trying to have fun and get loot and shoot things.
Yeah. One of the other things that they've introduced that I'm still not sure about necessarily what the purpose is you have a slide so you can run and then crouch and then slide. And it is fun.
Yeah.
Like it's fun to like slide at a guy while shooting him and
I feel like getting quickly to cover, like just trying to take less damage.
They did have one point where there was like this guy, he was kind of taunting you. Because he would like open a door and shoot at you, and then close the door before you could walk into it, and so you had to like slide under the door.
Oh, nice! That's cool.
Yeah, so they sort of presented it as a tutorial-ish kind of thing, But it was, if there's more things like that, I can see how it, works out.
Yeah, and this I don't know at all, but I wonder if like just thinking about the areas that you're in Borderlands 3, like maybe they'll use that mechanic heavily later on to like get through just some sort of obstacle course.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, and another thing that I only ended up using once when I got into it, there's a side mission where Claptrap has lost his antenna, and so he sends you off to like all of these random spots to find him options for an antenna, and one of them is just like something off a satellite dish. Another one is pretty similar. Oh, there's a psycho that has a tinfoil hat, and so that's one of the options. But one of them you have to ground pound, so you have to get up on this cliff, jump off, and then you hit the either the crouch button or the melee button. I think it's the crouch button, and you basically butt stomp your way through this door. And so I think that's something they sort of took from pre-sequel, but made it work a little bit better without having the moon gravity, so that you can only do it in certain contexts. But when you do, it can work out pretty well, and it's just fun to do a ground pound. But you get down there, and there's like an underground laundromat.
Oh, cool.
So there's all these laundry machines that are like full of bullets for whatever Borderlands reason.
Yep.
And then there's just a coat hanger right there.
Wait, like I wonder if they're like trying to wash the bullets or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tannis is another returning character. You actually like take the map to her to figure that out.
I don't Tannis is the name.
She's
is
the
not ringing me.
archaeologist.
Okay.
Who
Okay.
has like the goggles.
Okay.
She's probably more of a presence in the first game, if I'm remembering right. She's like a very key part of the first game.
I'm bad with names, but an archaeologist sounds very familiar.
Yeah, she was the one that knew about all the iridium stuff
Cool.
and knew about the vaults and did all the research and stuff on that. Tyrene is the female. I forget what her brother's name is. The female Calypso twin.
Tyrene, okay.
Yeah. And so, you talked about their relationship or like their dynamics and stuff. And it's interesting because I see that there could be a potential for them to like not always get along with each other.
Yeah, that's interesting too. Yeah. And
because she definitely treats him like just kind of, like I think she even says something like, he's just a part of me that, they cut off because they were actually like connected at birth.
I wonder if that'll
kind of thing
play into the story at all, where maybe you can use one to undermine the other or something like that, depending on how that tension builds.
Yeah. I unfortunately, I don't think Borderlands is the kind of game that's going to give you a lot of choices in how the story goes.
No, I don't imagine,
a
lot of choices, but I could see maybe at one specific point, a branching path. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Speculative.
There's a part where you're trying. Oh yeah, when you want to get to the vault, the first vault you find is on another planet. It's on Promethea, and so you've got to go around and collect some parts for the ship. And Ellie has you drive this big rig around, and it's kind of funny because it's like. It doesn't run off of gas. It runs off of biofuel. And how do you get biofuel? By running over enemies.
No, that's great. That's really great.
So you have to run over enough enemies to fuel up the truck, and then you can take the truck to go get the parts for the spaceship.
How is the horn on this vehicle?
Oh, if there's one, there's probably one there.
But you didn't honk it.
I didn't honk it.
We don't know.
A lot of customization with the vehicles, though.
Great.
That I didn't get to mess around with it much, but I think that there's definitely, it looks like just like how you can unlock the heads and the costumes and stuff for the characters.
Yeah.
There seems to be more along with the vehicles in terms of how much you can customize them and making your own beyond just like a different color.
Are we talking just like different bodies, or is it getting more specific?
I think there's like bodies and wheels and obviously like they had weapons before, but I think there's even a little bit more involved with that.
Cool.
So you get the ship, and then you take off, and then they have a really it's kind of tutorial-y, but they have a nice long intro to getting to know the ship. which is multiple floors. Like it's a huge base. It's basically your central town.
Cool.
And they set it up by you start to put in your coordinates. Claptrap screws something up. He causes the gravity go out of whack. There's a whole breach in the glass on the bridge, but thankfully Claptrap gets sucked up to it, and so his butt plugs the hole to keep you from all getting sucked into outer space.
Do they make butt plug jokes?
Basically.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Great.
But then you meet the rest of the people that are on the ship by going around and making sure that the crew is okay.
Cool.
And okay, there's a fire over here, and Marcus is there, and it's Tannis's station is in a deep chill, so you go and you help her.
So pretty big area.
Really big area.
Could you, I guess, circumvent the size by being able to fast travel to wherever you need to be within this area, or?
It's not so big that you need to fast travel.
Okay.
But what is nice is that there is a lot to direct you if you're paying attention. So there's a lot of, pipes and lines and things. Just okay, bridge is over here, or docking bay is down this way, and so you can't get too lost. When you're first getting to know it, it can be a little bit confusing because things are multiple floors.
Yeah, I don't even think just you getting lost, just time.
Just taking how much time. Yeah, I don't think it'll be too bad.
Cool.
Yeah, and the crazy, what's his name, Earl or whatever, the guy that you just see him open the door and his eyes are back there, and he deals with all the black market stuff. He's there, and it's kind of funny because Ellie needs some part to fix the ship, and he's like, "What you gonna pay me?" And we're like, "You're living on this ship, dude."
That's pretty good.
And then what I thought was really cool with the ship too is just the when you're on the bridge and you're traveling to the next place, you really get a sense of just being able to look out the windows and seeing that happen. And so it's pretty cool to just ride up on a planet and it's hey, there's a whole bunch of ships out here from this other faction we didn't expect to be here. What's going on? It's basically there's an invasion happening right when you need to show up at this planet.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And that was essentially where I ended up having to end it. They didn't want me to actually touch down on Promethea or anything just yet. And then I got a little bit of time with Mose and the mech, like I said, and I was on a jungle planet. I had to fight this big dinosaur. And once I did...
What kind of dinosaur are we talking?
It was like a T-Rex kind of thing, but it looked like it had been, altered or augmented or cyborged or something. But it was just I was just firing a bunch of homing missiles at it.
Die, right, yeah.
But I really do like the way that the mech feels. You get into it and you feel bigger and you feel powerful. And, it does, give you the sense that you're actually inside of a mech and they didn't just, raise the camera up,
Cool. So you've played the Siren, whose name I always forget.
Amara?
Yeah, that sounds in the ballpark.
Yeah.
So you played as the Siren, you've played as Flack, you've played as Mose. Do you have a clear favorite yet from among those characters?
I mean, I do kind of lean towards Flack. I did like the Skag the best out of those, the three pets.
Did you like the Skag the most just because you felt like its attack was the most effective? You felt like that acid was doing a lot of work, or?
It's not necessarily that the acid was doing a lot of work, but it just, it felt like, I don't know, it felt like I was able to manage it a little bit better, or read how it was attacking enemies better.
Sure.
Whereas the charge from the Spider Ant, I was I don't know, how effective that was. And same thing with just having the monkey thing, shooting pistols everywhere. The thing where it grabs barrels is cool, but at the same time, I don't know if I really wanted to grab that barrel right now. If I'm trying to be strategic with guys coming out. But I actually even, maybe it's because I didn't get to play with it that much, but I really like the mech. I really did like playing with Mose, and that, pulling off that action skill just feels so much more powerful than teleporting a pet. As
Sure.
useful as that is.
Yeah, it's exciting to
Or just
use-
okay, bats fly out of my hands, and okay, that's it.
Cool.
So yeah, rolling around in a mech for a while, and there's all kinds of different skills associated with it that can make it last longer, or keep your guns cool so that you can shoot them more and that kind of thing.
When you're in the mech from the action skill, how is your movement speed?
It's not bad.
Okay.
It's not sluggish.
Okay.
It's maybe not as fast as you would move, but at the same time, you're covering more distance.
Right.
So
And you're just firing.
it
a
felt
lot
like you were in a
more.
mech, but it didn't feel like it was oh, this thing kind of
Sure.
sucks. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I liked it. There's also an unlockable. That's the other thing I thought was interesting is some of those things that you equip, you unlock later on. So there's an unlockable flamethrower as another weapon that you could equip that I saw down there. But anyway, so you fight this T-Rex, and I guess it's an AI that's loaded into a teddy bear covered in vomit and stuff.
I don't understand what you just said. So the T-Rex.
The T-Rex, you kill it and it coughs up a teddy bear was the thing that actually was you come over here and help me. You got a call on your radio.
Oh, okay.
For a contact or whatever. Because again, they're just dropping you in. You don't really know what's going on in this mission. They're come over here and help me and whatever. And okay, there's this dinosaur and kill it, and then I'll you'll find me. And so you're carrying around this pink teddy bear.
Right.
That's voiced by Ice-T.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I can get that open. Navigate it, bitches.
Okay.
So
I think
you've
that
got
is
some
the-
attitude going on here for sure. Borderlands attitude with Ice-T mixed in.
Okay, so when I played Borderlands at E3, I was like, I'm excited for this. This played really well. I like some of what they're doing to make boss fights more interesting with the arena. But this teddy bear eaten by a cyborg dinosaur voiced by Ice-T might be the top of the list in terms of selling points for this game, I think.
Yeah. And
That's
so,
great.
Yeah,
That is
and
great.
so he's
This is
just
great.
he's just walking you through. He's I'm going to navigate you through this area. I know all the cool back back alleys or whatever to get through this jungle to get to some other AI that you need to meet up with.
Oh, Blood. This is one of those things where I'm glad you told me because it makes me more excited, but I also wish I didn't know.
Yeah, in the jungle, it kind of gave me a Metroid Prime kind of feel a little bit. For there's this wrecked ship that's just full of all of this kind of fungus and insect nests and things like that, and you fight these things called ratches. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're either in one of the previous demos or in one of the previous Borderlands games, but they've basically mutated a rat and a roach together at the same time.
That
It's
sounds awful.
Let's make the most disgusting thing we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, I think sometimes just with the Borderlands style and it being so colorful, it can be hard to make something truly disgusting and not just kind of charming in its own way. But yeah, a rat and a cockroach sounds pretty awful. I think another thing, just based on your description, you talking about this jungle, what I've seen in trailers and presentations and then E3 and then your description, it seems like there's a lot of nice, creative, environmental variety as well, which I think is obviously really important in a game like this.
Yeah. So, and then that's essentially when they're "Oh, your car back to the airport is here. Sorry,
You have to leave. Yeah, you have no choice. Yeah.
But again, going back to some of the stuff that we've talked about before, I really do like the way the combat plays out, particularly how you can kind of interrupt enemies and knock enemies actually back with grenades and with guns and things like that. I feel they're a lot more responsive than just these guys that they'll run at you no matter what, but they're not impervious to being shot.
Cool.
So there's a lot of just working that into things I'm gonna knock you down and I'm gonna knock you down and I'm gonna knock you down and then I'll try to clean you up.
It sounds like Borderlands evolved. It's keeping everything that you want about Borderlands, but making smart decisions that kind of really get into the nitty gritty in smart ways, like just improving the quality of combat, just the quality of getting around, like all of that stuff. I think might like sound small, but will make a pretty huge difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's not that far off. So
No. Next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how big it is, how it all turns out, what other antics Ice-T can get us into.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for checking this out. Thanks to Ben for talking with me for a good long while.
Thank you.
About Borderlands 3. And, of course, thanks to 2K for having us come up and check out the game.
Now that I got you, taking back the jewels gonna be no problem. Genevieve's locked it down tight, but I know all the back routes. Pays to have a navigator on your side, huh?